and then straight away transit to your talk.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me on this very special Vesak Poya, close to Vesak Poya Day. So the first thing to do is settle oneself to listen to the Dhamma. And to do that, we start with a short meditation session that is bringing our attention inwards, and find a good posture which can be held for the next 5-10 minutes. And if you're sitting on a chair, make sure that your feet are firmly placed on the ground, and also make sure that the body is equipoised. Make sure that the weight is balanced equally. Whatever posture you take, whether it's on the floor or on a chair. And have the back straight. Closing the eyes. We shut the eyes, closing the one sense door, and bringing the attention inwards. Just relax into the posture that one has chosen. Pay attention to the body. Is the body relaxed? And settle into the posture one has chosen comfortably. Just relax and feel comfortable in the body. And once we have settled into this posture, just bring the attention to the breath. Make this a breath meditation, choosing the breath as the object. Paying attention to the in-breath, whether it's a long breath or a short breath, or paying attention to the out-breath, whether it's an in-breath, long breath or short breath. Or you can take the whole breath body, that is the in-breath and out-breath, as the breath body. It's like when we drive a car around a bend or enter a roundabout in present days. We steer the car carefully around the bend, knowing whether it's a long bend or a short, shallow bend. Or we enter the roundabout, knowing the circumference of the roundabout, going round the roundabout, carefully steering the vehicle and exiting the roundabout. We are giving the consciousness something to latch into, the breath. By giving the consciousness something to latch into, the worldly memories and intentions are forgotten because our attention is on the breath. So we sit quietly like this for a few minutes. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So I start the talk now. I start by saying I'm very grateful for the servants of Buddha group inviting me, especially I think it's Professor Manori Senanayaka who invited me to deliver this sermon on a very special day. It's the Vesak full moon. It's not the Vesak full moon day, but it's the week after the Vesak full moon day. And it's a very important day for all of us because the only way we can show gratitude to Buddha is by following the teachings. He has found these teachings, rediscovered these teachings nearly 2,600 years ago, and the legacy has been left behind for us to use this and end this long journey in samsara. We have been roaming in samsara for eons and eons and eons, moving from womb to womb. There is a very special stanza which says this, which I like very much. It says, Satan cheva sahasranam kappanam sarissati atavapi tato biya gabba gabbang gamisati. Anupadaya buddha vachanam. Atavapi tato. Anupadaya buddha vachanam sankaro attato upadaya dukkhan sattang karisanti taname tang navijjati. That means we have been moving from womb to womb for eons and eons. Why? Because we haven't listened to the teachings. We made the sankharas, there's no good word to translate the word sankhara. We own everything. We try to make all the sankharas as me and mine. Since we have been doing that for eons and eons and eons, we have been roaming from womb to womb. So the only thing we can do to show our gratitude to Lord Buddha, who's the Gautama the Buddha, whose dispensation we are born into this time round, to follow the teachings and practice them. So today's talk is based on the six sense basis, because our experiences, there's the five khandhas and the six sense bases. So our experiences are revolved around these. We have these six sense bases. And I'll start with this sutta, which is Chappanaka Sutta, which is from Samyutta Nikaya. It's sometimes called as 354247, but it's in, I think it's in book 4. Book 4, Salayatana Vagga, and it's on section 1, and that's Salayatana Sutta, and Vagga 19, Asivisa Vagga. And it's called the simile of the six animals. And Buddha starts it by saying, somebody who's entering a forest had to be careful about the thorny reeds, because these thorny reeds will prick the feet. So one has to be careful entering the forest. In the same way, when a samana enters the village, the Venerable One has to behave in such a way so that the Venerable One is worthy of receiving the alms food, because alms mendicant are relying on lay people's support. So one has to restrain their senses. So what is this restrained and non-restrained? That is, we have these six sense bases: the eye base, the ear base, the nose base, the tongue base, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, the six sense bases. And these six sense bases are the ones that take sense impressions, and our experiences, our existence, we can say our existence, our experience is revolving around these six sense bases. And what Buddha said in this sutta is, if a person who is not setting up mindfulness of the body allowed these six sense bases to roll, are not restrained, so that's how we live in non-restrained way. So he compared this, like the simile is the one that makes it more alive to me. He said that suppose a person catches 6 animals, that is, they have different domains and different feeding grounds. That is, a snake, a jackal, a bird, a monkey, a snake, a jackal, a bird, a monkey, and a dog, and a crocodile. So they all have 6 different domains. And if each animal is taken and tied with a rope, take 6 ropes and tie each animal with 1 rope, and gather all these 6 ropes together at the end, at one end, the other end that is it's not tied to, tie a knot with these 6 ropes and put the knot in the middle. So you can imagine. So each animal will try to enter their own domain. The bird will try to fly into the air, the crocodile will try to enter the water, the jackal will try to enter the charnel grounds, the dog will try to enter the village, and the monkey will try to go to the forest, and the snake will try to crawl into an anthill. So each animal will pull in their direction of their own domain. So these 6 animals are compared to our 6 senses. The eye can only see, the eye can't hear. The ear can only hear, not smell. So one can imagine if these 6 animals are tied together, the ropes that they have been tied together are put into a knot and put in the middle. They will all pull in one direction or the other, and in each direction, and they will be very fatigued and become overwhelmed. Our minds are also like that. Our 6 senses are constantly working, taking sense impression, because that's what we do. We try to pull in the direction of agreeable taste, not disagreeable taste, or agreeable objects, agreeable sounds. And we try to move away from anything repulsive. So this is the non-restraint. And what happens when these animals become so fatigued after being pulling in all directions? And the strong one will dominate in the same way. When our 6 senses are pulling in all directions, the sense that is strong, the impression, will get carried away with that. So that's the non-restraint. But Buddha went further to say, suppose these 6 animals are caught, they are each tied to a different rope, and the other end of these 6 ropes are tied to a post that is firmly placed on the ground. So the post that is firmly placed, the pillar or the post that is firmly placed on the ground, is the mindfulness. So these 6 animals, the ropes of these 6 animals are tied with 6 ropes. So all these 6 ropes are tied to this firmly placed post on the ground. Then what happens is they know they can't pull in each, they still try to pull in their direction, but the post will remind them to come and gather around this post, because they're restricted by this post, because the rope is tied to the post. So the animals will hover around the post and rest by the post. So that's what happens when the mindfulness is directed to the body. Then the mindfulness will teach us to see what has arisen in the mind. This is the mindfulness as in sammasati, in the Buddhist, according to Buddhist teachings, Sammasati, which is the seventh factor in the Eightfold Path. So what happens is this mindfulness, Sammasati, when the mindfulness is directed to the body, we can slow down, the mind slows down, and we can see what arises in the mind, and we can act on it. So this is the restrained mind. So I moved to the, so this is, for me, Buddha is a genius. He gives these similes to, for us to understand. For me, that explains the sutta, makes me understand what he's trying to say. Because with the simile, it becomes alive, what we are supposed to do. So I move to the sutta, which is the next one, which I have put in the, I'm sure it was given to you, the Chachakka Sutta. That is 6 sixes. It's called the 6 sixes. And what that says is the 6 sixes are, it's all about the 6 sense bases. So I like to base this talk explaining and exploring the 6 sense bases. And in the Chachakka Sutta, what Buddha says is, he talks about these 6 things, but each one, he's talking about the 6 internal sense fields, the 6 external sense fields, the 6 classes of consciousness, and the 6 classes of contact, 6 classes of feeling, 6 classes of craving. So the 6, that's why it's called 6 sixes. It's called in, I think in English, when it's translated to, 6 sets of 6. It's when it's translated into English, that Chachakka is 6 sets of 6. And the 6, so the first one being 6 internal sense fields are to be understood. That's what Buddha is talking about. What do you mean by the 6 internal sense fields are to be understood? And 6 external sense fields are to be understood. And the third one being the 6 classes of consciousness are to be understood. The fourth one being 6 classes of sensory impingements. It's another word for contact, are to be understood. And the fifth one being 6 classes of feeling are to be understood. And the sixth one being 6 classes of craving are to be understood. So what happens when the eye sees an object? The eye consciousness gets activated. So first, it's the internal sense field, that's the eye. Then the second one being the external sense field, eye sees an object, and then the eye consciousness arises. What happens? Then the mind deliberates it. Because the eye consciousness is purely seeing it. But mind deliberates it. It constructs. Things get constructed in the mind. The first contact is, which is the third one of these 6 sets of 6s. So the internal sense field is there, the external sense field is there. The 6 classes of consciousness has been activated, and then this contact, the fourth one being the contact. When the eye sees, the first contact is the eye seeing the object, external object. But then there's a second contact that happens with the mind out of the first contact. We see an object, And what happens? The three coming together is the first contact. Tinnan Sangati Passo, the I, the object, and the I consciousness. But the mind constructs a story. The Nama Rupa is created because we add a value to that object. That object will remind us something. We giving it mental content. We have the feelings, perceptions, mental formations. So it's the first contact that started this deliberation in the mind. Because the mind keep constructing. And that's where the sankharas, in that stanza Buddha was saying, we take these sankharas as me and mine. And that's where we cling to them, we get attached to them, the upadana, then we create a becoming, connecting to the dependent origination. So as long as we do this, we keep constructing these and doing it more and more and clinging to them, we keep roaming in samsara. To go a bit deeper into this, because when we see an object, there's this appropriation of the objects. Once we see the object, we take it to one's own exclusive use. We haven't asked permission to use the object, especially seeing a person. How much we scan the body and how we try to make it mine. How pleasure is created, taking it as mine. Because we think this object we've seen will bring us pleasure. It's because we have done this before. We get caught into the sign of beauty of that object. It could be the color, it could be the shape, or it could be the taste. Because this particular object reminds us of something, isn't it? It's what we have done before. So what we have done before, we have in our psyche, and it gets reconstructed. This is the characteristic of sankhara. It keeps recreating, reconstructing. And we collect them. We make it mine. And as long as we do this, we carry on in samsara. And that creates a kind of a permanency as well. Because in the mind, we can construct these things anytime. Because mind has a mind of its own, isn't it? It keeps constructing. And this is the stage where we apply the yoniso manasikara. Remembering, putting the mindfulness. We apply the yoniso manasikara and we can change our perception that this is not going to give me long-lasting happiness. This is to develop anicca sanya, the sign of impermanence, the perception of impermanence. And knowing that will not give me long-lasting happiness. And it can't be me and mine. Even this body doesn't belong to us. We leave it behind and somebody else has to take care of it. That's the reality, isn't it? We look after this body so much from the time we are born. But in the end, it's the body that lets us down. Either we get a heart attack or we can even with an accident or whatever, we die and leave the body behind. So that is where we can use our yoniso manasikara, that's wise reflection, reflecting what has arisen in the mind. So going back to this now the 6 sets of 6. So the contact has happened, we had the internal sense field, the external sense field, the class of consciousness, and the contact has happened. The 4th one being the sensory impingement, the contact. So when depending on the contact, only the feeling arises, isn't it? Because if it's a favorite food, we eat, we have just contact the taste of the food. And we like to carry on tasting this food. We like to eat it every day. The craving arises. So that's how, because one leads to another. With the feeling, craving arises. And with the craving, with the contact, feeling arises. With the feeling, craving arises. So that's the 6 sets of 6 that the Buddha was talking about this in this sutta. So at the contact level, if we can use wise reflection, we can reflect on the feeling that has arisen, and craving is also constructed, isn't it? Because if we eat the same food, we like this food and we want to eat it every day, can we maintain this craving? Is it possible to maintain the craving for it? Because after a while we get angry eating the same food every day. We were craving for it a few days ago. Because craving is also constructed. Because what happens is when we see something, we remember what we ate before. We compare the previous experience that we have experienced by eating this and seeing the one in front of us at present. We compare and we try to get that same experience. So craving is also constructed. It's very good to remember this, because that's why it's possible to realize Nibbana. If craving is permanent, we would have had no hope. So it's also constructed. And this is the kind of reflection and contemplation one has to be doing. This is the Dhammanupassana we have to do according to the Satipatthana Sutta. How 6 sense fields arise, how they create the feelings. So this is the Dhammanupassana Buddha was talking about in the Satipatthana Sutta. We have been following the wrong Dhammanupassana without the Buddha's teachings. Because when only Buddha comes to the world, it's rediscovered, isn't it? And without the Buddha, how do we know these things? We have been following the wrong Dhammanupassana for eons and eons and eons. And that's why we have to be truly grateful to the Buddha who comes to this world for the benefit of many sentient beings. A Buddha could have, even the present Gautama the Buddha, he could have reached Nibbana long, long, long time ago. But for the benefit of many, he chose to be a Sammasambuddha and fulfill all the paramis. And he rediscovered the Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths. So this is the kind of way we can show our gratitude to the Buddha, especially during the Vesak time, remembering the Buddha and what he has done for for all human beings. And we have to be really grateful and show our gratitude to him by following his teachings. So to go back to this thing, the kind of experience we do with these 6 senses. Because if the beauty, or it's the sign of beauty we get caught to. The color, the sign of beauty, the shape. Because if a flower is seen by two people, one person says it's beautiful, one person says it's not. So there's no quality of beauty in the flower. That quality is with the one who perceives it. So we construct these things according to our own perceptions. What we are conditioned to, where we were born, where we were raised, or according to the family, according to the culture. So each individual creates one's own story according to our own perception. And that's how we create the karma. We keep adding value. We keep adding to the feelings we have, creating many, many stories. The intentions, the feelings. So that's how the name and the nama rupa is created more and more according to our past experiences. So according to our tendencies, we have our own tendencies. These constructions are formed according to our own tendencies. Because every time we see something, we think, we don't see it as unpleasurable. We see it as pleasurable, isn't it? And it will give me long-lasting happiness, and I have to make it mine. That's how we are wired normally. We don't see it as something unsatisfactory, impermanent, or not self. Because we are constantly applying ayoniso manasikara, unwise reflection. So that's why Buddha was asking, this is how the I making and my making is happening. That's why Buddha kept asking in many suttas, if it is impermanent, it gives us suffering, and it's of a changing nature, is it worth taking as me and mine? Anicca, dukkha, viparinama. If it is impermanent, not give us lasting happiness, if it is unsatisfactory and is subject to change, how can it be me and mine? Is it worth considering it? Is it befitting to take it as me and mine? That's the question Buddha asked in many suttas. And that's a kind of a reflection, or it can be a very good meditative theme, because this thinking mind can be used in meditation. Once the mind has calmed down, we can reflect on these themes Buddha has been expounding on throughout his time for 45 years. So when we consider things like that, if we have the wise reflection, when we take these sense impressions, when the wise reflection kicks in, that's when the mind can stop constructing in the wrong way with unwise reflection, creating sankharas, keeping us in samsara. Because the more sankharas we create, we collect them, and it's like a piggy bank, isn't it? We have in our credit, we have it to our credit, and we have to carry it around. But if we stop, see this process, because the whole idea of meditation is being able to see the process, how the mind works. And then through understanding, seeing through this mind and body, because what Buddha said is this body and this fathom-long body, this is our laboratory. This mind and this body is our laboratory. We see it within this mind and body, and this is a human body. So if I understand how the mind works with this mind and body, I can understand all the beings around me. And in that way, if I understand the human nature, I can understand the suffering that everybody goes through. Then the mind becomes expanded. And from that place, because through understanding the dukkha, how we create dukkha, through this mind and body, the mind opens for all, to encompass all human beings. And we can spread loving kindness from there. May all beings, because I'm understanding it through my own suffering, through this mind and body. So that's one way of understanding dukkha and spreading loving kindness to all living beings. So going back a bit to this I making and my making, because it's seeing an external object that triggers everything, isn't it? It's the first contact. Seeing something, hearing something. These days you hear a lot of news, I'm sure. And how we get carried away with it. It's not that we have to be close to that, but to understand what's happening within oneself. Because the dukkha is created within oneself. And the whole point of this Buddha Dhamma is understanding how dukkha is created. So these external objects is the footing for I making and my making. Because if everybody has the same car, there's no problem, isn't it? But there are a variety of cars. So this appropriation of external objects is the footing for my making. That's why we want a latest model or whatever it is. But what a car does is take one from A to B. That's the point of it. So just to be able to see what really arises in the mind, and according to the contact, according to the sensory impingement, the sense consciousness change, because the eye consciousness can't hear, the ear consciousness can't see. So each consciousness arises on its own domain. So what the mind does with it, once we hear or see something, how the mind takes over. Because of first contact, the second contact happens, the third contact happens, appropriation of these external objects for one's exclusive use, how we take it as me and mine. And we create the perception of this will give me pleasure. I need to have it. That's not the wise reflection, that's the unwise reflection. And this will give me long-lasting happiness. and it will be mine. So this is all unwise reflection, not having the correct perception. So at this stage, if we change the perception, be aware of what's happening, that's when the mindfulness kicks in. Because the mindfulness, as in Sammasati, it comes with the right view. Yes, the Eightfold Path starts with the right view. Once we have established right view, the right thought, right, all the factors in the Eightfold Path is working. Once we establish the right view, we have right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, and right mindfulness. So it's these three things, right view, right effort, and right mindfulness. These are the three cardinal factors. Right effort is only four things, isn't it? Because knowing an unskillful thing has arisen in the mind, overcome it, and protect the mind from any unskillful things arising in the mind. And on the skillful side, to develop unskillful ones that not have arisen, and to cultivate more of, to develop skillful states that have arisen, and to cultivate the skillful ones that have not arisen. So these are the four efforts one has to put. It's not, that's the right effort. That's all Buddha said, what right effort is. Just recognizing with right view what has arisen in the mind, having mindfulness, and putting the right effort. Atapi sampajano satima. The effort, having the clear comprehension, right mindfulness, and put in the effort. Once the right view has been established. So this is basically what we have to do. How we create views, wrong views, and we create these wrong views again and again, because all the past experiences are there in our piggy bank. And the mind can take it anytime and create sankharas again and again. It gives us a kind of a notion of permanency, because it's at our fingertips, and we can just think of something if we are not having wise reflection. And that's why when it comes to contact, so that's the 6 sets of sixes explained how Buddha was trying to say these 6 sets of 6 classes must be understood, because it has a linear, we have this internal sense fields, the external sense fields, the 6 classes of consciousness, then the sensory contact, the impingement or the contact, then the feeling arise, then the craving. Following the feeling, craving is created. So this is basically our existence, isn't it? This is one way we create our existence, one way we create our experience. And the more we become aware of it, more we understand this process. By understanding the process, we become the nibbida happens. We know it's time to let go, because through understanding this is happening. Not that we think, oh, I mustn't eat chocolate, or I mustn't do this, I mustn't do that. It's not forcefully trying to stop things, but through understanding, letting go. Through understanding the process, because we are living with this mind and body, by understanding the process, things get dropped off by itself because it's happening through understanding. Thanks to Buddha, because we are using Buddha's teachings. So that's how the Nibbida, I keep forgetting, I'm trying to remember what the good word for Nibbida in English, but it's we turn away from the normal process of running. We are going against the grain. We are not attached to, the how the sankharas are created, are seen. We see things for as they are, and we become aware of what's going on in our mind. And that's how we can overcome the dukkha, overcome sorrow, lamentation, by simply changing the perception. That's what in the Satipatthana Sutta, that's what the Satipatthana Sutta is all about. Soka paridhavana samatikkamaya, dukkha domana sattangamaya. By doing these four foundations of mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the feeling, mindfulness of the thoughts, and mindfulness of the Dhamma. So we follow the correct, with wise reflection, starting with the bringing the attention to the body, seeing what arises in the mind, having firmly established mindfulness in the body. We know that we are running with the wrong perception, seeing that, changing the perception. And the whole thinking process changes, isn't it? Because for the hair on the head is so beautiful, but hair in the soup, we won't even touch it. We can't have two perceptions, can we? About the same item. But when it's on the head, we really look after it. Spend so much of money going to the hair salon and all that, and keep it beautiful because it's in the body. It has this me and mineness. But when it's in the soup, I don't think we drink the soup. Maybe sometimes we might remove the hair and drink it, but there is that repulsiveness arising, seeing hair in food. So that's how much sanya tricks us out of the five, because the five khandhas are also a way of experiencing, creating our experiences. So the sanya can really trick us. Because it's a good way to see the sanya is compared to a mirage. And it really tricks us most of the time. But if we apply the correct sanya, like in the Girimananda Sutta, there are 12 sanyas Buddha was expounding on. If we establish the correct sanya, the whole process changes. That applying those sanyas, we overcome the dukkha. We are working towards getting out of samsara rather than getting stuck in samsara. So you can, these are these suttas and these Dhamma points can be very much used as meditation objects because our thinking mind can be a very good tool in insight meditation. That's how wisdom and insight arise, because we are able to see things as they are. We are not seeing through wrong sanya. We are not seeing through colored glasses. We see things as they are. How an eye sees an object, and how the contact, the three, the eye and the object and the eye consciousness, having three coming together at contact level, are we applying wise reflection or are we applying unwise reflection? So that's when we can stop creating karma, because the chetana, intention, is the one that coordinates all these things in the mind. So when the desire or lust has arisen in the mind, the bondage is created. So depending on this contact, the feeling arises. Because there are only three feelings, the pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral feelings. And if it's pleasant, there's craving created. Then the appropriation happens, taking it for one's exclusive use. Then the possessiveness, the mindness, and a bondage is formed. And once that's formed, we have to protect it. We go to war to protect the me and mindness, isn't it? Once that bondage has been formed, we have to protect this object. So that's how the bondage or the samyojanas are created. So if we can reflect how impermanent these things are, the eye is impermanent, and the feeling is impermanent, the perception is impermanent, the consciousness is impermanent. We are investing heavily on all these impermanent things. How foolish we are. So it's good to remember the feeling is compared to a water bubble. It's when it rains, the water hits the water puddle, and bubbles are formed. And thousands bubbles get formed, isn't it, when it's raining on a water puddle. So the feelings are like that. When you eat something, it's only from here to here, isn't it? The taste is. After that, you had to have another bite, mouthful, to get the same feeling. And that's what happens, because we like that feeling, we crave for that feeling, so we eat again. That doesn't mean I'm saying not eat, but understanding what's happening. So these feelings, they have an underlying tendency as well. These feelings take place because there's an underlying tendency. The underlying tendency for lust or hate, because it's what we choose, what we want, is the same thing that makes us angry. When we can't get it, the anger arises, isn't it? Even if we look at the taste buds, look at this body, we have been eating from small days, and the taste buds are worn out as we get older. We're only heading towards one way, getting old, and they get worn out. And then what happens? We get angry because we can't get the same taste. As we get older, that's what happens sometimes. They think, the people are not cooking properly, but that's not the case. Our taste buds have worn out. And the same object, the food, has made us get angry because we can't get the same feeling. So that's what's happening to all of us, you know. That's the true nature of this existence of ours. And this is what Buddha's teachings is all about in a nutshell, and how we can overcome the dukkha that we create through our own foolishness. Of course, there's dukkha when you're born into a body, we get old and die. That's common to all of us, that nobody has found a cure. The birth, the aging, sickness, and death. Well, maybe some sicknesses, but still the body keeps falling ill. But nobody has found a cure for that. That's the nature of being born into a body, whether it's animal. I only know animal and human from what I can see. Any birth into a body is dukkha because it won't last. But on top of it, the other dukkha we create, the second dhat. It's all the soka parideva, dukkha domanassa, payasa, separation from the light, not getting one bonds. That dukkha is constructed in the mind by not following Buddha's teachings, not seeing things as they are. And we can definitely do something about that, knowing Buddha's teachings. We only have to be aware of what's happening in the mind and use the effort, mindfulness, and having right reflection or having the right view. So I like to end my talk with this. I just want to say thank you for your attention, and if it's useful, please take it, otherwise leave it behind. And I think I close the talk.
Thank you very much, Venerable Sister Ajahn Khemaka, for that very detailed description of the six senses, bringing in some very interesting similes as well, and stressing on the importance of mindfulness, right? Mindfulness brought at the point of contact to prevent the generation of this sanskara, and by so doing, to break away from this cycle of life and death. How we can get away, liberate ourselves from this samsaric journey by bringing mindfulness properly to the point of contact. So I'm sure there must be a lot of questions. Some of the viewers may want to give some comments or even ask some questions for greater clarification. The forum is now open to this audience.
Thank you for that disenchantment. That's the word I was trying to remember. Somebody has said nibbida is disenchantment. That's correct. Yeah, we get disenchanted by these fascinated things that we keep clouding our mind.
So you can unmute, raise your hand, unmute, and ask your questions or comments. So can I ask a question, Venerable Sister?
Yes, yes.
What is the connection between the mind and the brain? Because the brain seems to play a very central role in this whole process of sense perceptions. What has the Buddha told about the brain and the mind? Because all these things are tied down to memory, isn't it? I mean, all our sense experiences, how we interpret it as, good, bad, or tasty or not tasty, all these are based on our previous memories from our previous experiences. And all these memories are in the brain. So what is the connection between the brain and the mind which sort of tends to sustain this the whole entire process of contact and the generation of sanskara and the karmic process as well in the whole phenomenon.
You know, the five indriyas, you know, the saddha, virya, sati, samadhi, panya, the faith, saddha, virya, faith, effort, mindfulness, saddha, virya, sati, samadhi, concentration, and panya, wisdom. When you meditate, you can see these indriyas are definitely on the brain, definitely. They get developed in the brain. So I can't bring a scientific connection, but the brain is the one that gets developed, I believe, through meditation. Because most of our brain, we are not using it, are we? So the brain gets developed through meditation, and definitely the indriyas the indriyas get developed in the brain, definitely. That's all I can say. I can't, give you a full analysis or what the connection is, but definitely the indriyas as in spiritual indriyas, the spiritual faculties are developed in the brain. What is saddha? Saddha is really having true faith, isn't it? Because when you see something is working through our own experience, that's true saddha. It's not blind faith, but that is true saddha. And that's definitely something developed in the brain. And I can only say the spiritual faculties are part of the brain.
Okay.
But I can't give you anything more than that. It's something to be experienced.
Thanks. Yes, Anuja, go ahead, please.
Just want to ask a question now. Now, when we see something or when we taste something, the perception of it, which you liken to a mirage, these perceptions are very much the product of our memory. Now, would you say that the memory is a part of the brain?
I don't know whether Buddha ever said where memory is held, and I don't want to go against anything other than Buddha's teachings here. But the memory is in our psyche. Yes, we do store these memories, isn't it? And the first contact, we now imagine when somebody dies. Yes, the person is no longer with us. But why do we cry? We contact with the memories. Because now when we see an object, we can see it with our eyes. But if a person is dead, we can't see the person. But still we cry because we get in contact with the memories. Yes? The memories make us feel sad. The person is no longer with us. It's that contact that makes us sad, isn't it? Now imagine we have been born many eons and eons. In the previous lifetimes, how many people have we lost? Can we remember them? It would have been dire if we can remember them, isn't it? So remembering this bird's life losses, we cry so much. So this memory is a good thing, definitely, but it has its downside as well, because we contact this memory of the good time we had, and we compare. The perception compares it. So it's a loss. You're no longer with me. And that generates sadness. This may sound very, but that's the reality, isn't it? That's why the contact, the perception, which is a mirage. With the contact, there's feeling. As soon as there's contact, there's feeling. Is it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? And that feeling leads to craving. And recognizing that a feeling has arisen, a pleasant feeling or an unpleasant feeling or a neutral feeling has arisen, and remembering how impermanent feelings are. It's difficult to do, but that's all Buddha said, isn't it? Remembering. And why are we running after these impermanent 5 aggregates and clinging to them? Feeling is an aggregate. And that's why it's a water bubble. It keeps changing all the time. But we chase these feelings very much. Our life is all about feelings, I'm not saying there's no pleasure in this life. There's pleasure, but how we cling to them, how we how we crave for them, that's the dukkha that's being created. And that's what the Buddha was talking about. How we create this dukkha. Chasing after a feeling. I don't know whether that helps. So it is a mirage. The perceptions, we are completely tricking us all the time because we don't have the correct perceptions are the 10 perceptions in Girimananda Sutta. Isn't it? There's anicca sanya, anatta sanya, asubha sanya, adinava sanya, pahana sanya. There are 10 perceptions. Sometimes 7 perceptions, 6 perceptions in different suttas, but it's the same thing. Like the repulsiveness of the body, the repulsiveness of food. That kind of perceptions are not very common to us, is it? And that's how the greediness arises. I'm not saying there's pleasure in life. It's not a thing. Buddha didn't say there is no pleasure in life. But getting attached to these pleasures, and if our life is purely based on these pleasures, we are looking in the wrong place for pleasures, isn't it? That's what Buddha was trying to explain to us. We all like happiness. Who doesn't like happiness? But we are looking in the wrong place for it.
So, right. That makes it clear. It's basically experiencing the sensation without any attachment. That's basically what it is. And there's also a comment from Sudanta. Thank you, Ajahn Khemaka, for a very clear and very insightful Dhamma talk. Your examples too are very helpful in helping us to understand. That comment has come from Sudanta. Any other questions or comments or anything you want to get clarified? We'll go to another few minutes. Right. In the absence of any more questions, I think we can wrap up this program. I need to make an announcement. And next Saturday, that's the first.
Can I? Oh,
yeah. Sorry.
oh, sorry, Professor.
Yes,
I was a bit late. Is it too late to ask a quick question from Aya?
You can ask a question. You can.
Sorry for just a quick yeah. Aya, I was just thinking about in the dependent origination, the third link of consciousness, and then you've got the fourth nama rupa, and in the nama element you've got consciousness as well, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, if I'm correct. So you've got two lots of consciousness leaning in each other. I can't seem to understand that.
I think there's a sutta which explains what that nama is. In that nama rupa, in the nama, what we have is contact, sanya, vedana, sanya, chetana, manasikara, and ekagata, I think. It's the five khandhas different from the five things that go into nama rupa. Nama is passa sanya, vedana, chetana, manasikara. If I say sanya is perception, sanya passa, sanya vedana, vedana sanya, that's the order. Vedana sanya chetana. So feeling, perception, chetana is intention. It's not a good, I mean, intention.
And manasikara.
Yeah, contact and manasikara. So contact is again there, passa. And manasikara is making the mind, you know.
I see. Yeah. So would that
construct. Sorry?
Would that constitute the embryo, basically? The consciousness taking forming the embryo to form the six senses, six bases are developed from there.
I think the conscious needs to come in first, isn't it? Because if the
third link from there.
The perception, the conceiving is when the consciousness has to drop into the womb. That's how Buddha has explained, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you, Aya. Yeah, for that link. Yeah.
There's a sutta which says that what is nama rupa. I can't remember offhand, but I can when I find out, I can send the name of the sutta to Anuja or somebody. Or Manu.
Lovely. Thank you, Aya. Excellent talk. Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you. So next Saturday, that's 1st June, the talk will be delivered by Venerable Paligapola Sila Vansatero of Vajrarama, and we'll be talking first on releasing the mind from worldliness. So that's the program schedule for next week. Usual time, it's 4:30 p.m., not 5. 4:30 p.m., 1st June, talk by Paligapola Sila Vansatero of Vajrarama on releasing the mind of worldliness. And before we go on to Anumodana, we also have to thank a few people. Thamarasi Dias for hosting this meeting and taking the trouble to record everything. And very big thank you to Venerable Sister Ajahn Khemaka for delivering this very interesting talk, and also administrating the Pansil and conducting a very useful 5-minute program of guided meditation. All that helped us to bring our focus, our attention into this talk. So thank you very much, Venerable Sister Ajahn Khemaka, for doing all that. And one final request from you is to convey the merits accrued by all these to the Devas and the departed. And with that, we'll finish the program. Over to you.
As I say, thank you very much again for inviting me to deliver this talk during Vesak period, which is very important time for all of us. And I wish you all well in your practice. May you all realize the Dhamma through understanding. So we share the merits with the Devas, and you have to do it Dhamminyati as well.
Yes,
and the data. Akasatta ca Bhummatta Devanaga Mahittika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiran Rakkantu Loka Sasanang Akasatta ca Bhummatta Devanaga Mahittika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiran Rakkantu Desanang Akasatta ca Bhummatta Devanaga Mahittika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiran Rakkantu Mamparanti Ettavata Chammehi Sampadang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata ca ammehi sampadam punya sampadam sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata ca ammehi sampadam punya sampadam sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Idamme ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Idamme ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Idamme ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. May all the devas and anybody who's waiting to can receive the blessings of all our practice and coming together for this time to listen to the Dhamma. If any departed relative or friends or anybody who is in a place who can receive these blessings, may they receive these blessings and may they go forward into a better place. May I wish you all well and success in this lifetime.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much. It's a lovely program. Thank you.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of this program, and thank you very much, all of you all, for your presence here, participation from all over the world, and your comments and questions raised. And a very special order thanks to Thamara Siddhas for hosting this meeting today in the absence of Professor Manoria, President. And thank you, whenever Khemaka, once again for that lovely delivery and your fitting in to this program amidst all your busy schedules on this Vesak week. Thank you very much. Till we catch up next week. 1st June at 4:30 p.m. Sri Lanka time. This meeting is now closed. Thank you.
Therwan sarnai. Hamotam. Niduk nirogi suwapat weva.
Therwan saranai.